everybody, and welcome to Your Personal Record, the show where me, or I guess well, whatever it is, where Adam Realman talks to people about collecting records and music and whatever it is that we feel like talking about. But really, it is mostly about record collecting. Now, today, I have got a very special guest, a very old, and when I say old, I don't mean like, we're senile or anything, senior citizens here, but I mean old as a longtime friend of mine. And I mean, we're going to probably reminisce a little bit about how we met because it revolves around music. And basically, our entire friendship revolves around music and records and collecting. And I mean, it's a pleasure to have him here with us today. Friends, welcome my dear longtime friend, Jace Wald. Hey, Jace.
Hey, Adam, and it is an honor and pleasure to be on your show.
Oh, stop.
I love the show too. It's a great idea.
Don't flatter me, please. I mean, this is just, it's just me talking to people. It's really, in the age of COVID, this is what it comes down to, I guess.
It's a good hobby.
Hey, listen, I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, the truth is, and I hope that everybody out there enjoys it. And if you do, now watch this like flawless. I just go right into the plug. If you do, make sure you subscribe and hit like and comment. And there was something else that my daughter told me to say, but I don't remember what. All right, anyway, let's carry on with our conversation. So, wow, we've known each other, it's got to be about 25 years already.
Yeah, 20 years.
And we met, if I'm not mistaken, at Wetlands.
Yep.
In Manhattan. So this is going to be around 94, 95.
Yeah, 94.
So, I mean, it could be even longer. It could be about 26 years already.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was at a Piamenta jazz show.
Yeah, Yossa Piamenta.
All right. So he was like this Hasidic guitar player. Is he even still around?
I haven't. He hasn't come across. I know there's that scene still going. But
and it was kind of like a hippie place, which was, I guess once we peel the layers back a little.
Hippie and hardcore, right? Like a lot of hardcore punk as well.
Yeah. But the night that we were there was kind of a hippie night, which is like a little unusual for the both of us because, I don't think we really travel in the hippie circles.
I don't do the jam thing so much. No.
Yeah. They were like big. Wetlands was big on those jam bands.
Yeah.
Like early on. And right, so they would do hardcore and they would do jam bands. And we met, it was like through a mutual friend, and we just started talking about music. And that was it. I mean, it was, similar taste in music. Jason's like leaving the show already. So we started talking about music and
just to jog a memory,
the end of the decade box set.
I was wearing that T-shirt, and I think you came up with Debbie and said that's kind of sacrilege to wear that shirt. It's from that box set.
Yeah, I it's certainly something that I would have said. It's like, how do you?
And then I made the connection because the mutual friend that I was with was like, you have to be Adam. So it was all explanatory. So. And
that was it. But I mean, yeah, why? And I'm going to ask you again, 26 years later, why would you take that shirt out of the bag, out of the box, and actually wear it?
It's to be worn. It's like the records are intended to be played, and the merchandise is to be worn. That's how I felt. I didn't feel like keep it in pristine condition to resell or anything else. I was just that's a keeper. And there's only 2,000 of them, or? Well, yeah. I think that was like number, whatever number that is. I don't know.
So there's 2,000 of them, and 3 of them are accounted for because you got 1, I got 2.
There you go.
Where are the others? That's what we want to know. If you have one of those,
the mint ones with the shirts intact.
I've got there were shirts, there were postcards, there was a poster, and a bunch of singles. I mean, I haven't opened it in ages, but both the ones that I have, they're not still sealed. They are actually open. But I still to this day can't. I would never touch that shirt. Now, do you still have the shirt?
I do. It's very thin.
You're killing me here. You're killing me. I mean, from a collector's perspective, and I mean, I'm the guy who will leave the shrink wrap on the album. Do you do that as well?
Yes, yeah, I do that. I take the the Stanley knife or whatever it is, and then make the incision, the scalpel. One of those. That's
Right,
exactly it.
the little box cutter where you have literally like, you need a microscope to see the tiny blade, because if you go too deep, you'll slice the inner sleeve.
I need to wear these to actually find because they seal them so tightly now. Sometimes, yeah. So
the double albums, or the gatefolds are sometimes easier to slice through because there's like a little air pocket in between. So you can really kind of get that knife in and just nick it.
Yeah, that's it. You'll see the original, hype stickers and everything else on the shrink.
So all right, so you'll carefully open a record, but you'll wear a T-shirt from a box set that's probably like a $400 or $500 box set.
If it's a good shirt, I mean, it was a great shirt. I mean, if it's just so, then I don't need to wear it. But
it is a great shirt. We actually, my wife had found a Ramones T-shirt up in the attic. It was Ramones Aid. It was like from the video. And she said, "Oh, is this from the box set?" And I'm like, "What are you kidding? I wouldn't open those." I said, "This is it's a bootleg shirt. We'll just leave it upstairs." And that was that. But so we became friends. We bonded over music. We bonded certainly over that Ramones shirt that you would wear and I won't. And at that point, we started going to see shows.
Yes.
And so this is mid '90s, and New York at the time was just a terrific scene for just New York rock and roll. Kind of the older crowd, those that were still alive at the time. Walter Lore and the Waldos were playing. The Ramones would pop in and out and do shows periodically, or solo acts and stuff. Dee Dee was around. He was out of the Ramones at the time.
The
Remains, Jane County. Now I got a couple of interesting things to show you from that era. All right, now let's see here. So this is going to be the slideshow. All right.
Okay.
I can't separate it. So I can't do. Whoa! All right. Looks like we got two of those wheat paste posters that we used to peel off. All right.
Wow.
So that was Degeneration. Backseat Driver. Don't remember. You any recollection of them?
No.
All right, but we remember Degeneration. I mean, we had seen them countless times. CBGBs. Let's see. You'll get a kick out of this one here.
Yeah, the New York Blues.
New York Blues at Continental.
With Gary Sunshine, I think, right?
Oh, that I don't know. Here's a good one. You ready?
Oh yes. I think I've got the small flyer of that.
I'm sure I got a few of those. So this is the Dictators, the Clowns of Progress, Stop. You remember Stop?
Yeah.
That was Mickey Lee, Joey's brother.
That's right.
Tom Clark. And on the back, it's got the set list for the Clowns for Progress show.
I think Tom Clark did a cover of Hey Boys as well.
All right, could be. And finally, this one's a classic right here.
Wow.
Max's Wednesdays at Coney Island High with special guest Joey Ramone, Jane County DJing or bartending. I mean, this is, these are some good times. And I mean, I wound up saving a lot of the ephemera from that era. I mean, I went through literally a tub in the attic that had handbills and flyers and posters and magazines and clippings, all from that mid-'90s era of New York.
I mean, it's a great opportunity. I mean, that was what drew me to New York. One of the main catalysts to come to New York was obviously this infatuation with the music that came out of New York, especially the 70s. So in that period, that 90s, it wasn't too far removed, even though in my mind it seemed, years ago, but 20 years goes so quickly.
But isn't that amazing how back then, we were what, in '94, it was 15 years removed off of the, original CBGB scene, but it felt like a lifetime.
Oh yeah,
We're now 25 years past this time, and the time flew by.
that's right.
It's incredible. I mean, it's called getting old. And
But
so then we used to go to the FMU record fairs.
that's right on Avenue. Well, I think that one was on Avenue A,
Yep.
the 10th Street, the church there on the corner.
Yep, they had it there. That was they had first moved from Jersey over to Avenue A.
I think I might even have if this works. I don't know. Let's see. There's the Dictators with the Kiwi pressing there. Do you see that or not?
I can't see anything. I mean, I see us. I don't see any screen shares. Did you share the screen?
Do you see that?
No.
All right. Then
I saw it before when you were doing it, but all right, we'll get there. You keep playing around, and I'll fill the air with some talk. And
Okay.
so you're originally, now let's talk a little about you. You're originally from New Zealand.
I'm from New Zealand. Do you see that? No.
Oh yeah, now it's coming in. Look at this. All right, I got that.
All right. There you go. CBGBs. We talked about WFMU. There's Thurston at the WFMU.
Thurston Moore.
Thurston Moore. That's a later one.
Now that's the one that's in Brooklyn now. I mean, when they pre-COVID Brooklyn.
Yeah, it sort of grew. Yeah.
Brooklyn Expo Center.
Of course, us beating
Oh,
up.
gee, wow, look at that.
And then, of course, around the corner.
One of the best, Academy Records, yeah.
Uh,
Was that there was a picture of you and Matt Dillon in front of CBGB's?
you took it.
I took it?
Yeah, that was a Dictator show.
Can you make that a little bit bigger? I want to see that. If you can. I don't know how these computers work here.
How do you?
The world is now looking at your
You
everything. All right, well.
Is that not?
Whatever. So that's and there's me and Debbie. Wow, was that at that? I think that picture was that up in CBGB's on the heating, like the HVAC unit.
That's right. Yeah.
We used to crawl up there and watch shows from up there. It was great.
Take that off.
So I took that picture of you and Matt Dillon.
Yeah, and I think Matt was like saying, "Oh, I got this cigar from Handsome Dick." He's like, "I got this. This is from him."
Oh, we'd seen the Dictators so many times. I mean, you were the one who got me really. The only Dictators album that I had at that point
was Manifest Destiny.
Manifest Destiny, right up there. And oh, let's go see the Dictators, and I'm, Manifest Destiny. You're like, trust me, go see the Dictators. And we went to see the Dictators. Like, holy crap! And that was it. Became an obsession.
They delivered. I mean, they really delivered.
Oh yeah, they were rock solid, solid. And so, all right. So I want to know a little bit about. So you came from New Zealand,
to
New York. Now, prior to being in New York, were you collecting records down in New Zealand?
I was. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I was going to do that with the slideshow thing, but Real Groovy Records, the in New Zealand. I mean, that was music was my food, really. Like I'd get allotted money for food. Here's your lunch money, and that money went straight to buying records. That was so. Yeah, I mean that was pretty much it, and I didn't realize I was collecting. I just thought I'm just acquiring music that I like. And it wasn't years later until you sort of read Goldmine, the US one, or Record Collector, the British zine, that I realized, wait a minute, that's me. I'm one of them. I'm a record collector. But that was it. I'd spend a lot of time. And that's the thing too. You'd get your information. You'd find out about other records and other bands, and from talking to the record clerks.
Right. What were you collecting back in New Zealand before you came to the States?
I mean, initially, it would have started with Kiss, like I went deep into, I had to get everything that was, and they had quite a catalog, so it was getting all the Kiss records and then all the sort of other projects like Frehley's Comet and everything else. So that's really where it started. But like I'd find out, okay, what their influences were. So okay, they listened to the New York Dolls, or they had some influences. So you'd go exploring others and what was that scene, and then you'd go off into other tangents.
You get into it's these wormholes, and
That's right.
one album begets another album, and one band begets another band. And so all these, do you still have the records that you had back in New Zealand? You bring them with you?
Yeah. The New Zealand, this is my first record.
That's the first one you ever bought?
No, the first one that was given to me.
All right.
And that was, and I later learned actually, Chris Spedding is actually a guitarist on that record.
Wow.
Quite like all the originals, obviously Kiss, that was like the first Kiss record, and then fill in the gaps.
Now that are all those New Zealand pressings?
Yeah. Well, that one's probably a Hong Kong pressing, but this is a New Zealand. This would be a New Zealand pressing. Most of the Dictators, everything was New Zealand pressings.
Wow.
It's just there's a lot of punk records and
now were the
Australian
Suicide? You've got the original Suicide?
But all the New Zealand pressings, like everything's just sort of strange. Not necessarily the best quality.
Well, listen, I picked up a Kid Creole, an Israeli pressing of a Kid Creole album. And it sounds okay. The label is all messy. It's like smudged. The record, the sleeve looks like it was, a total bootleg, like a grainy picture. It's awful, but it's cool at the same time because it's an Israeli press. You don't see too many Israeli pressings.
Yeah. I'm drawn to a lot of 70s music from different genres, but unfortunately the 70s weren't the best era for producing a quality record.
Well, what are you talking about? Those old RCA Dynaflex records? Those things last forever. Those are great, that Lou Reed transformer on Dynaflex, and you can almost play. It's like you're playing the saw.
The level board.
Yeah. But they're still around. They're still good.
Yeah.
And so, all right. So you come to New York. Did you bring at the first time around? Did you bring your whole record collection, or
Not initially. When I knew I was going to be moving here, I packed everything up and shipped it over and spent a fortune on obviously shipping and storage and everything else over the years. So, that's
you didn't lose anything.
Quite a costly,
anyway.
Quite a costly collection. What's that?
You didn't lose anything along the way. Leave it in a storage facility. Leave it on a truck. All right, good. So everything is accounted for. Do you log your albums or your collection into Discogs, or how do you keep track of it?
Only since pretty recent. This is the thing. Everything was pretty much on freeze, the whole record collection, because I just, I'd buy CDs or whatever. I did, and the records obviously would only come out if I had a record player, and I didn't have a record player when I first came to New York. So I didn't, the only time I would take them out is if I was going to spin them somewhere. If say, hey, bring some records, you can spin down at this club or something. I'd get a stack of records and be an excuse to listen to them.
Right.
Other than that, so I didn't really buy a lot of records for a long period of time until sort of a belated post, 40th birthday present to myself. I got a turntable, and then all bets were off.
Yeah. And once you start up again, it gets bad. It gets really, just really addictive and hard to stop. But and so now, all right. So let's talk about some of the bands that you're into. What would you say is your most collected band?
It goes through different phases. I mean, now since I've been taking this up, I mean, I'm going into a lot of jazz. So there's a lot of jazz going into the collection now, funk and soul, reggae. So yeah, I mean that would take up a lot of the collection. You know, like there's just so much obviously to discover, and so yeah, there's.
And are you strict about original pressings, or you'll just get, it strikes your fancy?
I mean, it'd be dictated by the wallet. I mean, if the original pressings, again, I go by what I'm going to listen to. So if the original pressings weren't great and they go for a lot of money, then I don't need to spend a lot of money for an inferior quality pressing. If a later pressing is going to be a better one to get at a more affordable price, so I'll opt for that. But there's something about that connection with the original pressing. You know that was perhaps closer to the source, closer to the original recordings and acetates that relate to the actual session that had the artist. So I feel like there's a stronger connection, with the session. So I kind of am maybe more drawn to having an original pressing.
I mean, I suppose a lot of the original jazz pressings are pretty pricey. So
too pricey, yeah. Ridiculous.
Yes.
And I have to say, with like Blue Note, for example, I mean, there's some great repressings happening now. The Tone Poet series that Don Was and Co are producing a really top notch with the tip on, and I don't know if maybe I don't know, but it's a good, like maybe 180 gram record. It's a good quality pressing anyway.
That's cool. Don Was. I mean, last 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the whole no wave scene and ZE records, and that seems to be, that is one of the big recurring themes in this show, is sort of Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers and ZE records. I guess maybe because I like it, but yeah. That you into any of that no wave? James Chance and
some, to a degree, because I mean, to a degree, like, I mean, but it's still part of that scene, I guess, but I don't know. I think I gravitate more to, for that 70s punk scene, I gravitate probably more to I guess what was classified as punk. It wouldn't be classified as punk today, but
that first wave of New York gritty punk, Ramones, Dictators, Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers.
Yeah, Voidoids,
right. Yeah, you were always a big Richard Hell fan.
Yeah.
And listen, that's the stuff that I like, and I guess that's why we got along so well, because it was always, it was that music, just that era. I mean, jazz, I can listen to it, but I don't know the first thing about jazz.
Yeah, no.
I dig it, but I have, a bit on CD. I'm not going to go out and buy, records of it. And a lot of it was kind of discards from my son. He's, oh yeah, you'd like this, here, check this out. And that's that's like my extent of jazz. But I dig the new.
I'm a late bloomer to jazz. I had great exposure to it, and I neglected to take much notice or attention to it. I had a few jazz records that I liked, like I'd have a little or something from every genre, and I still have them. I mean, there's probably like 4 records that I had, and that was it. And that was up until maybe only a few years ago.
I mean, it can be, jazz can be very intimidating if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's almost like collecting Beatles records. I have 3 miserable, beat up Beatles albums. I don't know where I got them. I didn't buy them. They were either given to me or part of a collection. So obviously, someone must have given them to me. But I won't even start dealing with Beatles albums. I love the Beatles. I would love to own them on vinyl, but which pressing, and it's just too much. It's a head jam, and I'm just not ready for it.
I think the fanatics can be quite intimidating. When you have that conversation and they go into it deep, and that can be a little overwhelming. But I think the actual music itself is, if you just listen, I mean, it's fine. I mean, Beatles, obviously, very accessible. And jazz is just, like to me, that a lot of the jazz is a soundtrack to New York as well. Again, it sort of goes back to the New York obsession.
Yeah, yeah. I was, I was reading the one of the suicide books, and I didn't read Martin Rev was a huge student of jazz and a pretty accomplished jazz musician, and just went in a completely different direction with suicide. But he would hang out and go to all the jazz shows, and it was, it's like eye opening. One of those, there were like two suicide books that came out fairly close to one another, and I had read them both, and one of them really focused a lot on the New York jazz. I mean, for me, it was interesting learning about the jazz scene within the city, but also I found it equally fascinating that Martin Rev was, who's this, electronic wizard, was an accomplished jazz musician.
I mean, to me, it is kind of like the punk scene, and in a way where it's like you had jazz musicians that they just loved listening to those records, not necessarily going to school for it. Nowadays they go to a school for it, and they would just listen to those jazz records that the elders, and take to it, and then just be able to just go in and improvise and go in and play and figure it out, kind of like punk, and if you look at the loft scene here in the city, and the close proximity of the different clubs and where these musicians were hanging out, and also too their lifestyle, it pretty much is, that 50s and 60s jazz scene in New York is pretty much like the 70s punk scene in New York.
It makes sense. Makes sense. Outsiders who were just doing their own thing.
Yeah, they were just being expressive and improvising, weren't they? It's just,
yeah. Now you live, you're in the East Village and have been there for quite a while. You've seen quite a few record stores come and go.
Yeah.
Over the last, 20, 25 years.
And it's funny, like they're really coming back.
They are. I mean, you're pretty close to A1, which I think is closed.
Yeah, they're not having in-store shopping, but
they're doing Discogs and online, but
yeah,
there's nothing in store. Academy is also relatively close on 12th Street,
and they're open.
Yeah, they're open midweeks and maybe Wednesday through Sunday, whatever. I think they're closed a couple of days, but they were closed, for quite a while, and the one in Brooklyn as well.
Yeah, well, sometimes they alternate sometimes as well.
Yeah, yeah. Now, any other shops in the area that are still around?
I mean, there's a couple of new ones. I mean, there's Stranded, which took over another previous record store on East 5th Street.
Mm-hmm. Limited to one.
They do a lot. They do a lot of jazz and maybe avant-garde and what else? What else?
There's limited to ones in that area.
Limited to one, yeah, just downstairs on, I think it's 10th Street. There's another one that opened up on 10th Street on a different block between 1st and 2nd. I think it's something 45, and it might be house music, I think.
All right,
I haven't been into record shops really.
Yeah.
In the last year, but
that's really the one place that I'll still go. I try not to, aside from going to work.
Yeah.
And obviously not doing shows. I'll still go into, I mean, I'm double masked. I've been double masking since before Fauci told me to double mask. And,
yeah.
I double mask up, and, really, a lot of the shops, will, like Academy, insist that you sanitize. Captured Tracks in Brooklyn has you putting on gloves before you, handle it, and before you handle the records. Brooklyn Record Exchange as well has you put on gloves before you're handling the records. So I noticed the cat looked like she was about to pounce, so we're gonna put the posters.
Downtown Gallery's still going, by the way. Do you remember Downtown Gallery? Downtown Music Gallery?
Where was
they? Were on East 5th Street, and then they moved to the Bowery, and then now they're down on it Madison or Monroe? Down, down
I don't even remember.
right
I
down
mean,
the Lower East Side.
some of the shops that were open, back in the night, Subterranean, that was a kill.
Yeah, Cornelia
Street.
Street.
Just off of 6th Avenue. It was just west of 6th Avenue.
Yeah, between 6th and Bleecker. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And that was, I mean, downstairs, the place was tiny.
Love that shop.
Oh, did he have incredible stuff.
Yeah.
That was,
you made some scores there. You got some good stuff. Like
yeah.
Posters and prints and.
Yeah, I got a lot of ephemera.
Yeah.
At Subterranean. You had Revolver on 8th Street. It's Only Rock and Roll was up there. Venus, before they moved to St. Mark's, were right up there also above, on the 2nd floor on 8th Street. I said It's Only Rock and Roll. I said that one, right?
Yeah.
And then you had Bleecker Bob's, Second Coming. Generation is still open.
That's right.
That's the last holdout in that area. Well, I guess you got House of Oldies, and there's
House of Oldies is still going.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in there in.
I did a revisit prior to this, which seems kind of recently, and it's a time capsule.
Yeah. Some of these shops, you got to wonder how some of these shops manage to stay in. I mean, I can't speak on House of Oldies. I haven't been in there in years, but I've been in other shops in Jersey and whatnot, and they're total time capsules. And you got to wonder, how are you making rent? You thumb through the records that have been thumbed through for years already. There's no new inventory. It's the Z grade stuff, the common stuff. Unless they own the building, and how are they making rent?
Yeah. One that was on my list for a while, but I went there actually during this. Moody's up in the Bronx, which again, a lot of reggae. They've got a renown for their reggae, but again, like they got stock in there from, they had it when it was still mint, maybe 30 years ago, and it's still got the original sticker and shrink and everything.
But I mean, obviously, in 30 years, no one's wanted it.
No.
So what does that tell you? I mean, I guess eventually someone's going to walk in and say, "I need this."
Yeah.
But if they haven't in the last 30 years, they probably won't within the next 30 years. That's, law of averages is going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Wow. And there you have it. Excuse her. Okay, there. She's settled in. She's like, I'm telling you, I think my cat over here is like a cam girl. She kind of senses when this camera is on and just wants to be on camera.
And the limelight.
Yeah. But that's all right. So now,
maybe on stage there. I mean, it's the stage.
Yeah, I mean, she was scratching a couple of weeks ago. So, anything new that you're listening to? Any new bands?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of new stuff, and a lot of stuff that's come out during this too. But okay, out of Chicago, jazz, but kind of like in that same sort of style as like what a lot of those, like Strata East, were doing. But International Anthem out of Chicago does these great records. Great. Again, I'm a sucker for packaging, and it's got the Obi and beautiful artwork and everything as well. So, I mean,
anything special on the vinyl? Any colored vinyl on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this one is. I know there are like they do the colored vinyl. I mean, I'm a sucker for it because that's their
nice gatefold. Yeah.
They do their.
Oh, that's nice.
That's Janice Paul and Damon Locke's.
What label are these on?
Like Monument Ensemble. This is International Anthem, but I've been pretty much getting practically all of their releases. I mean, there would be like barely one that I would not get.
Do they do direct mail, or you got to order it through a shop?
Yeah, they do it. You can order on Bandcamp. I mean, they have some better distribution now as well on some of them, but you can get them all direct on Bandcamp. So that's a plug, like obviously for Bandcamp Fridays. But
where
Angel
all the money goes to the artist.
Jamie Branch is actually based in New York. But yeah, a lot of them are Chicago based. Desron Douglas and Brandy Lee are New York based as well. Actually, this is they were doing a session on Instagram where they would just do like a Sunday, I think it was a Sunday brunch, and they would just do a little session, harp and bass. They're a couple, and obviously they're together in their bubble, whatever, and make great music.
And they're out of New York.
And they pressed up, that record, like a keepsake from those sessions.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so it was stuff that was recorded live on those Instagram sessions,
yeah,
and then they wow.
So that's right. And actually, speaking of that too, New Zealand didn't have much of a lockdown, and they really didn't have. But they did have, when they had their initial lockdown back in March, April. A group did get together and did this virtual shadow ensemble, and so I got this one too out of New Zealand. Really, it's really cool as well. So I don't know, actually that's the cover. That's the cover out there.
Nice looking art. And this is also kind of new jazz.
Yeah, it's free jazz. Some poetry, spoken word. But yeah, it's definitely jazz, but free jazz, somewhat experimental. Also another one too from the 70s, loft jazz musician Alan Brofman, and that just sort of came out in the last year as well. So there's this one's really good too. Asher Gamadzi.
Is that a 45?
No, he did a print, it's all about the special packaging, the first however many pressings are going to include this. This will be the first, so they'll make a special package for the first 100 or 150 or whatever.
Right. Different variants.
There's just, I don't know, again, there's a lot of good new stuff, piano, Sven Wonder, Swedish. That's really, I've been really enjoying that. From Estonia, RR Gems.
Well, this is like overload here.
I'll stop. There's there's a bunch. But yeah, a lot of new stuff.
That's great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to link in the description to a lot of these artists that Jason's talking about, so that you can find them and check them out. So you'll send me all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, do you find, is there a difference between, aside from the water swirling backwards, is there a difference between New Zealand record shops and record shops in New York?
Not really.
Or is a record shop's a record shop, no matter where you go?
It's that formula, isn't it? It's the same sort of organization. You got your new arrivals, and depending on what you gravitate to first. I know there's always the strategy when you go shopping. If you're after a specific sort of genre, maybe you're better off going to the sort of extreme polar opposite type of genre to actually find that score. I'm going to go to a metal shop to try and find an obscure jazz record because only metalheads going to go to that shop.
Has that worked for you?
No. Actually, occasionally. Okay, it's other people have had that same strategy, I guess, or it's just the stores don't really keep a lot of great inventory. They don't, care too much, so they're kind of neglected. But you can find that little stash of, gems.
I just from my experience, I think the good stuff is, the minute it's out, it's gone. And then you have the stuff that lingers, the stuff that you'll see, if they date the price tags, and you're flipping through the new arrivals and the price tags are from 6 months and a year and 2 years ago. They're not so new anymore. But so what is your strategy? You go into a record shop, you're hitting the new arrivals immediately.
Yeah, new arrivals is typically where I gravitate to, you know, because I feel like everything else has been pretty well picked over. But again, like it doesn't hurt to do that. And I understand, you know, like taking, you know, Academy, for example. I mean, they'll put records straight into the, you know, respective
Yeah. I mean,
sections.
for the most part, they'll stack it new arrivals, but within a couple of days, sometimes they'll shift it right into the
Yeah, or
stack.
some they don't even wait; they'll just go straight
They'll
there. You know, they
just
just
go right in.
bypass it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and of course, the wall. You know, like for the
Now,
that sort
are
of,
you looking at the wall before you look at the new arrivals, or it's
I was
sort of
looking
like
at your wall. No, but you can't help it a little bit, but it's just a little too. I don't know. Like if you go for the wall straight away, it's just a little bit too. You know, yeah, you know that's probably the rare records for the most part.
yeah. I find I'll hit the new arrivals and sort of spread out at the new arrivals and slowly and peek over at the wall,
Yeah,
depending on where the wall is situated. If it's you sort of have to have eyes all over the place. When you're flipping through and the guy 2 lanes down is again with social distancing, you don't want to be right on top of it, and guy pulls out and you're eyeballing to see what this guy pulled out. Is this something that I want? And then come on, you don't want that. You don't want that. Put that back. Right?
that it does happen. I mean, not a lot, but I mean, yeah, again, like when you find that record and you sort of you're not putting it there. You kind of like put it to the front, and then you sort of then you take those ones in the front. You go to the next section, and again, but you don't want someone sweeping in right behind you and taking that record that you just put in the front as just as a holder,
right. So now here's a question about rooting through record shops, digging through the record shops. You're going through, you pull out 5, 6, 7 albums. As you pull them out, are you looking at the condition? You don't like it, you put it back, or are you keeping that stack and then done with the entire store?
Yeah.
Check the all right. That's what
I think I ultimately want to eliminate my stack. I don't want to have a big stack.
Right.
So I want to actually weed it down. So give me an excuse to put something back.
Yeah. Right. The cover's a little bent. All right, we'll maybe it's a couple of bucks high for a bent cover. We'll put that one back. And there's a little scuff. I don't know that I really need it. We'll put that one back.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly. Are you still buying CDs or strictly vinyl now?
I mean, I have bought CDs, but it's only if I can't get it on record. Like I prioritize. I want it on record, but if I have no other choice,
yeah.
Some are CD only releases, or if it's a reissue, it's not on vinyl yet, and they've just put it on CD. So I'll take a CD. I'm not going to discriminate, but
right.
I do gravitate to the record. It's just
it's there. Right? Listen, there's a reason that it's making a resurgence.
Yep.
I mean, it really, for the most part, I stopped collecting for about 18 years. When the kids were growing up, I didn't have time to sit and listen to records. They've sort of, made their way into this room and took over the room.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do? I most of my listening was in the car. So I'd buy CDs and they'd go right in the car. And, eventually I learned how to put music on an iPod and a phone. And that now plays in the car. But, eventually it was just going back to where it started, which was the records.
I mean, I've kept the CDs. I haven't, again, like same with the records. It's like I didn't give up some of the catalog to replace on CD. I kept the records, and then I got another one on CD, but I didn't give up the CDs, to go online or,
Yeah. I've over the years I've gotten rid of more CDs than I have records. I would just trade them in and so I'm not listening to it. It doesn't. It's like not meaningful to me per se. And about 2 years ago, I stopped trading in CDs. I just have that feeling that they will make a resurgence again. I mean, they've dipped, they're slowly crawling back now, and I think that the nostalgia of it all,
Yeah.
like cassettes are making some sort of resurgence now. So I'm not going to forsake CDs completely.
I didn't get talking to a guy that would go on in White Street down in Tribeca, the record archive.
Oh yeah, well those guys moved. We were talking about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I heard you talking about them. They're going up the Hudson, right?
Yeah, they're somewhere.
But there was a guy that was just going in there, and he had a suitcase, like an empty suitcase, and he just says, "Yeah, I'm going in for the CD." I said, "What do you get? Do you get records or CDs? What do you like?" And I said, records." And he's like, "Yeah, I go for the CDs." And there's people that are like, that's what they want. That's the format they love, and
yeah,
they'll still
I've been in plenty of record stores still, and people will come in specifically asking for CDs. Obviously, I shouldn't necessarily call them record stores, but music shops, and people will come in specifically asking for CDs. So obviously, there is a market for it, But I don't think that you're, generically. I shouldn't really call it generic, but your mass-produced CDs are increasing in value at all. It's the limited editions. It's like a lot of metal stuff goes for a couple of more dollars than your Springsteen, for argument. I guess they just cranked out so many Springsteen CDs that your Manila Road is going to go for $10 as opposed to like $5. I guess.
We'll see what happens. Again, a lot of people have discarded their CDs because of that reason. Like the records, they're going for 50 cents. That people are just can't get rid of them. They just dump them on the street. People are doing that with CDs, and then there won't be that many in circulation, and people will be sorting after certain ones.
Now, do you log in your CDs on Discogs as well? No. Okay, I have. It's funny. I have some CDs on. Not the entire. I probably have a few thousand CDs. But it's really only the ones of the bands that I really collect that I'll enter into Discogs. So the Ramones, every Ramone, the Ramones CDs, and then these CD singles and that type of stuff. But for the most part, it's the Discogs is just the collectible bands, the bands that I collect.
This is. City living, I have to put some things away, so they're in storage. I can't access the CDs to even put them onto Discogs.
Now, before you put them in storage, do you put them on MP3 on your computer or?
No, some of them, but but I'm not accessing the hard drives. I don't listen to downloads. It's just
So when you want to listen to that klezmatic CD, that you just have in storage, what are you're gonna have to find it on Spotify.
Yeah, I'll have to stream it.
And speaking of Spotify, wow, that was a perfect segue too. At the advisement of the Your Personal Record tech team, which is my 23-year-old daughter, she recommended that I make a Spotify playlist and accompany each show with a Spotify playlist.
Great idea.
This is why this is what the kids do. I don't know from this. I had to it was 14 text messages to figure out what is Spotify. You just find the app and download the app and then log in. Do I need an account? You just log in through Facebook.
No, that's a great idea.
So that's what we're going to be doing. So that'll also be in the description below. Wow, listen to me. And if you like what you're listening to, again, make sure you like
and subscribe.
And subscribe. We don't do T-shirts yet. This is only episode 7 of Your Personal.
Coming soon.
So right, maybe when we hit like 10, we'll have a limited
anniversary.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Who knows? But all right, so let's see. I certainly have a whole bunch more questions. Tell me the greatest record finding story that you have.
The greatest record.
You're in a record shop. You found the grail. You found something you just needed. You wanted. You've been looking for, whether it's rare or not. Something that just really spoke to you, and it's like, I finally got this.
There's a couple. Again, again, and getting it for a bargain is a bonus too. Like there's a couple like that where I guess they just sort of overlooked records, and one was an MC5 one I got, New Zealand pressing. Another one was this is the best one though. Well, one of the best ones. But it was like a show, part of the show and tell again. Like I was at we call them op shops in New Zealand, but they call them thrift shops here, and all the records were $1, and if it's a double, it's $2, right?
All right.
So I got a Beatles original original New Zealand pressing numbered
white album.
With all the inserts,
all the stuff inside, the pictures.
Yeah, for $2, near mint condition, and I was just like, yeah, but that's going to be $2 because it's a double. I'm like, well, all right.
Yeah.
That was all right.
That's a nice score. Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah.
Do you find that, these days, in the days of Discogs, the days of eBay, can you still find bargains out there?
Seldomly. Like even going into thrift shops, it's like even off the beaten path, you go into somewhere where they've got clothing, and then there's some records sort of down the back, all jackets all torn and worn and scratched, and you go through, and it's like, and I've been doing this like in travels, it's just like, thanks to the internet and everything else, the information, it's just like,
that's it.
It's really hard, really, really hard. And it's sort of funny. So I sort of had this theory, especially the ones in New Zealand, going to all the thrift shops in New Zealand, and I was doing that. I was like, okay, every time I see a thrift shop, I'm going to go in and they're going to have a stack of records. It's almost like the same,
just waiting for you, Jace, take me home.
It's like the same assortment. It's like there is a record distributor for thrift shops, and it's got the same, usual.
All right. So that's a question now. Here in New York, you go to a thrift shop, you'll find your Dan Fogelberg, your Boz Skaggs, Leo Kottke,
Saturday Night Fever, ELO.
Saturday Night Fever. Yeah, a lot of ELO.
Is it like Kamal, Nana Muscuri?
Who's this?
Nana, there's a Greek, Australian Greek artist, Nana Muscuri.
All right, see, we don't get that up here.
No, but it's like, Richard Clayderman. I don't know, it's like the same.
But there's totally different artists that you'll see in every bargain bin in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But they're just not the artists that we're going to find up here.
No.
Right. It's a regional thing, I'd like to talk to someone, let's say in the Midwest, and I probably should have asked Dave when I spoke to him, if these are the same artists that, that we see up here. You can't, Billy Joel is all over. I was in Florida it was pre-COVID, so it was a little over a year ago. And, one of the shops, I don't remember the name of the shop. I'm talking to the guy, and for some reason, I'll always bring up Cheap Trick, love Cheap Trick, and he said that he hasn't seen a used Cheap Trick album traded in years. Dave, who we spoke to, was it 2 weeks ago, is in Minnesota, and he said the same thing. You just don't see Cheap Trick out there. New York, you can pick up every Cheap Trick record for like $2-3, maybe $5.
That's the thing too. Like the artists that were, local or popular here, we've got great access to them, and that's another good reason. Yes, sometimes you'll pay accordingly, but they're not going to be obscure. They're not going to be too difficult to find.
Right. Now Australian artists, you've got like Rose Tattoo, who really, for the most part, people in America know them. Yeah. I was actually supposed to go see Rose Tattoo, but it's really just Angry Anderson at this point. I think everyone else in the band, in the original band, has passed away. But Angry Anderson, was touring under Rose Tattoo, and that show got canceled because of COVID. And they rescheduled for sometime in 2022. And I said, just refund the money if I don't know what's going to be in 2 years from now, in a year from now. So just give me the money back, and I'll take my chance on getting a ticket. But I mean, do you see like Midnight Oil, an Australian band? Do you see a lot of it? Because here you really don't see a whole lot of
Uh, in terms of like the oldies sort of still playing,
that. Midnight Oil is still playing.
I think like Colin Hayes, came here from Men at Work and did some shows here.
Love Men at Work.
But and wait, you remember this one?
What? No.
Dennis Tech, from Radio Birdman.
Yeah. We saw him at Barry Electric.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's a good story about that. I mean, again, this is like Radio Birdman and the sort of like the other punk band in Australia of the 70s, and you probably saw the documentary on the Radio Birdman one as well. But is the Saints?
It's on my list.
The Saints.
Yeah.
And at the time, the Saints were the more credible. Like if people were into punk in the 70s, the Saints had more credibility. Radio Birdman, they weren't perceived as, it was sort of like after the fact. I think after they broke up or after the scene, then they sort of got some respect due.
Notoriety, yeah.
But that box set, which is okay, I didn't. That's got the patch in there and everything, but I didn't see. I didn't wear that.
You didn't iron or sew the patch onto a jacket. Yeah, I was going to ask you if that box set had a T-shirt that maybe you use as a flag or something.
Nah, see that one. I mean, it's not the best condition. It's a little worn.
Well,
but the copy that I had put aside was, and I said because at the time when it came out, like I didn't have that much money to fork out for the record. I was like, just put it for a box set like that. I was like, just put that aside. I'll come and pick it up maybe after payday or something. And I go back and I said, Jace, we sold, sorry, I got bad news. We sold your box set. But it was to Pete Shelley from the Buzzcocks, and like really excited to share that information with me. I'm like, I didn't care. I was like, that's my box set.
Well, give me Pete's number. Let me get the freaking box set. Come on.
So after that, I was like, trying to track down another one. But
well, you found it.
Yeah, I did find it. Yeah, eventually I found it.
Yeah. No, Radio Bird, I guess like maybe people just didn't know what to do with them. They're I mean, it's sort of punk, but is it punk? I don't know.
It's got that surf. Yeah, definitely that surf thing. Well,
Right. I mean, it was sort of certainly, not punk as the Saints would be punk.
As well, yeah, it's definitely more drawn to that late 60s kind of like MC5 Stooges, Detroit.
Yeah, right. They covered the 13th Floor Elevators, right? You're Gonna Miss Me, didn't they? That was Radio Birdman, right?
And TVI, I think as well, right?
I think so. Who?
TVI.
Did they do that one?
I think so. Yeah.
No, I gotta look for that one. So yeah, so maybe it certainly punk influence. May not be punk, but we're splitting hairs here, I think.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway, wow. So we've been rapping for a while here. I think we're gonna wrap up. So let's see. Any advice for a new record collector? Someone who's just getting into it, a kid you see it at a record fair or a record shop, and again, we're talking post-COVID here. And he sees you buying all this cool free jazz stuff. Hey, what do you think? Well, what would you tell this kid?
Buy what you like. Like don't like there's people posting on Instagram, like their grails or these high value pieces and so scarce private label, whatever it is. Great. And a lot of the times they sound great and you pay accordingly, but there's so much good stuff out there that were, either overlooked or they pressed a lot of it and it didn't sell a lot and it didn't get, the attention at the time. So you can still get it for a pretty affordable price. I'd say just get what you like, and that's pretty much it.
That's good advice. When Record Store Day wraps, every year, and they're just within the next couple of days, I think, going to announce the 21 Record Store Days, but they're doing 2 drops this year. It's I think a June and a July drop. They haven't announced the title. Maybe by the time we air this, they'll have announced it, but as of the recording, they have announced it. And the end of every record store day, there's always those records that are selling, limited edition, but they're selling for $30, $40. And you come home at the end of the day and you're looking in, whether it's Facebook groups or Discogs or eBay, and the sharks are out and they've, jacked up the prices on all of that. And I mean, a lot, some of this stuff is still available and will be available because no one wants it. And some of it really just retains that value and people are paying the money for it. But, I don't know. I'm still a sucker for record store day. I still, make sure to go out. And there's really only ever 2 or 3 things that I want. Sometimes, I'm kind of scratching at one, but I'll always go, even if I don't get any record store day items. I do try to go out that day and just support. I'll go in the afternoon before the after the craziness dies down. If there's nothing that I really want that I needs and wants. We've always discussed this, but I'll wait until things simmer down and then just go around.
I think that's key with the record store day releases. Like if you happen to miss out, they only had certain allocation for a certain release and it was only like 1,000 copies worldwide, and the original record's going for $1,000 and this one's only $30 and it's on red vinyl and it's numbered or whatever. So you dip out and then you see it on Discogs and eBay for $100 already. Just wait a little while. A lot of people have bought 5 copies.
Yeah.
They might have sold 1 or 2 for $100. 8 months later, they're still sitting on them. They're going to start dropping. They'll start dropping.
Right.
For the most part. I'm not saying for all of them, but that's what
a lot of it will. A lot of them will. Yeah. Yeah. And
a lot of the shops still have them too. Like after the smoke settles or the dust settles, you go out there and it's like, they still have it.
Right. But then there's always that thought that crosses my mind and says, I should have bought that, whatever 90s band it was, I should have bought that album and I could have sold it for 3 times and but I don't do that. It's like, come on, I'm not a dealer. I'm a collector. I buy what I like you said, buy what you like.
But you'll see that all the time. You'll see that.
But the thought always crosses my mind, just one time, just buy this, even though that Black Crows or whatever it is. It's always like some metal band from the 90s, late 80s, 90s that is of no interest to me, but is the hot record. I mean, like that what was that Sabbath compilation was the last record store. Nativity in Black.
Yeah, and they reissued
and they
like a negative on it.
I didn't get it. I mean, I have the CD of that.
Yeah.
I listened to it once. It is what it is, and that thing just shot up. And I don't know if it's still as high as it was a couple of months ago, but who knows? Anyway, Jace, this has been great. I thank you so much for joining me here. And now I have to do all of my requisite promotional plugs, and then we'll say goodbye again. So, all right, and hey, if you've been watching the show, so this is episode 7, and the production value yet again skyrockets with this new microphone over here, and more of the blue light. These LED. Now, I put my phone on the floor, so I can't even change the color. But these are these Wi-Fi lights, and now I got 2 of them. There's 2 white. There's one back there, so it makes it like a nice icy glow in back. But anyway, if you like the show, what was that?
It's like being in the back of a limousine.
Yeah. Basically, I next week there's going to be a pole over here and a little wet bar, and just be careful of the records. But so if you like what you see. Again, like and subscribe and comment, and because it helps the algorithm so that people who are into this type of stuff will see it, I guess, right? That's the way it works, right? The more people that are engaged and the more that things are.
Yeah, you can't say viral, but that's.
Yeah, no. In today's, we got to wait maybe another year before we can say that. Now we just have to stay inside and wear masks. Anyway. So thank all of you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. with my friend Jace Wald over here, all the way, well, from New Zealand, in New York for the last, wow, a lot of years.
Most of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, most of you, exactly. Jace, thank you so much.
Thanks,
and,
Adam.
regards to everybody, the whole thing. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't show this picture. This is a great one here. All right. Jace took this one here. That is Jesse Mallon.
And you got the flyer like taped on your, I think it was
There's the flyer for the show. That's my wife wearing the Degeneration shirt. And yeah, so I was a little heavier, a little less hair. Well, less hairy down here, maybe hairier up there. That said, Jace, thank you so much. Let's see, I'll stop recording and then we'll have like the after party. So friends, thank you for watching. Jace, thank you, and we are done.